Meeting of the Watuppa Water Board will come to order. Mr. Furlan, if you would, roll call, please.
President Pearson,
Here.
Member Ferrer,
Here.
Member Terrio.
Here.
The open meeting law reads as follows. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Mr. Furlan, first item on the agenda is citizen input. We don't have anyone signed up.
Oh, nobody signed up and there was nothing submitted to us.
Very good, sir. Second item on the agenda, please.
So that's minutes of the previous meeting that was submitted to you within your packet.
Is there a motion to accept the previous minutes as posted?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Furlan, item 3, please.
Item number 3 would be proposed leak abatements. Within your packet, you'll see a list of leak abatements that are either a proposed abatement amount or there is one that is proposed for denial. These have been reviewed by our staff and myself. The total of the abatements is $5,589.60.
These abatements, Mr. Furlan, are they a reflection of the new meters?
No, these don't have anything to do with the new meters. These are all through the leak abatement policy. So these are properties that had leaks or presented to us that they had leaks. Their water usage doubled from previous water usage. They made a repair. They proved to us that they made a repair, and then the usage dropped after that. We were able to verify the repair through our meter reading system.
Is there a motion to accept the report as written?
Make a motion. I'll second.
Motion passes unanimous. Mr. Furlan, item number 4, please.
Item number 4 would be recommendation to award to Advanced Enterprise System Corporation, also known as Utility Cloud. This is in relation to our asset management software. We've been, over the past year, going through a very rigorous evaluation process of asset management software. We put out for an RFP. We had multiple proposals through that RFP process, ranging in cost all the way from the low $200,000 up to over $1.1 million for a 5-year service contract for asset management as well as work order management system. So this is everything combined into one. What we've had in the past is kind of a mixture of systems. Paper systems that we're still working from, but we've digitized a lot of that stuff, so at least we have it somewhat available. We've been using, within the water department, we use Fulcrum, which is data gathering software that's cloud-based. It's not an asset management or a work order management system. On the sewer and stormwater end of things, Veolia has been using one of their softwares, Infonet, but the problem is that the city, we don't have full access to the Infonet information. So I've gone through and my overall plan, and we had a study done a couple of years ago on the asset management throughout the whole entire system, and the idea is to get all divisions into one asset management program and system. That way people that oversee the multiple divisions, like myself, will be able to have full access to all the information within water, sewer, and stormwater. People that are in the water maintenance division, they'll have access just to anything related to water maintenance. But everything will be located within one system. Everything will be working all from one area. We were able to secure some grant funding and Srf funding for this project. We've gone through, as I said, an evaluation process. We started out with a grant and a loan a while ago for the study, and this is actual award. So how we did the award, we got a total, I think it was about 14 companies that submitted on the RFP process. I said they ranged all the way from the low 200s for the 5-year contract to over $1.1 million. We went through and there was a team of us from my office, water department, every division within the water department, as well as multiple people from the sewer department in the different divisions in Veolia, that went through and evaluated the submittals that were submitted through the RFP process. Once we were done that, we scored everybody. We narrowed it down to 5 people that we 5 companies that we wanted to move forward to take longer looks at. We sent them a sample of our data and told them to prepare us a presentation. We went through with those 5 companies and reviewed their presentations. Spent about an hour and a half to 2 hours, on a Zoom-based meeting with all of them so that they could present an actual what it would look like for the city of Fall River. I didn't want them to present, a city that they've been working with for 30 years and it has all the bells and whistles and everything's worked out. I wanted them to show us what they could do for us. So we went through that process, and we worked with them. And then after that, everybody that was part of that review process, which there was a number of us again, we then scored all of them. The highest scoring came up to be Utility Cloud. After that, I worked with the vendor on the price that they proposed, as well as the contract for the software. The total contract cost for a 5-year service with them is $201,030. That includes the implementation cost, which is taking all of our data and all of our information that we currently have and putting it into their system, custom building all of our screens and all of our applications and stuff like that. One other thing we did through the evaluation process, we also talked to multiple other communities that have had this software. North Carolina, Florida, Orleans, Mass. And there was another local one up in the Boston area that's been using the software. They were all extremely happy with them. There's a great user base and a shared user base. So if somebody builds an application, you want the same application, you're able to use their application. So if another community builds one that you want to use, it's a shared community on there. What we have in place is what we call the champion of the system. That's going to be George Garcia, who's our asset management GIS coordinator. He's employed by the sewer division. He's going to be what we call the champion of the system, so he's going to oversee and learn to master this system. He'll be the go-to guy for all the divisions. So, as I said, $201,000. We do have grant and SRF funding available in the amount of $146,000, which will cover our initial payment for the first 3 years, as well as the implementation cost. After that, I expect that water and sewer will share the cost and have it budgeted within their yearly budgets.
I'm sure you've asked the question, but what is their response time to any potential problems?
So they have a 24/7 hotline. Our IT department has gone through their IT protocols and was happy with their IT protocols. With something like this, it's a cloud-based. So some of the systems were cloud-based, some of them were server-based, back and forth. In my eyes, personally, I like server because you have it on site, but everybody's going to cloud. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing because you put the investment, and we saw this in the Neptune software. You put the investment into the server and everything like that, and then a couple of years later they discontinued the server use. So and went to full cloud. So going with the cloud system, I feel that's what's needed. Their backup for their cloud service and their downtime, that's one of the things that we really honed in on with some of their references of what their downtime might be or what their service time might be. And all the customers that we talked to were very happy with their pre-scheduling, being able to do it on off hours, any service or anything, of having to take the server off of the cloud offline, or also being able to correct any issues very quickly was they were happy with.
How do you envision using this for? I understand asset management, but are we looking at a work order based system or?
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So this will fully include a work order management system as well. So we'll be able to get a call in. We'll be able to dispatch. It'll go into the system. I'll be able to dispatch a crew. It'll help us with tracking time, tracking costs associated with particular projects, as well as being able to track those projects.
Will you be building an inventory analysis? In other words, so that, you know, if it requires one gate valve, one flange ring.
Yep, so that's something else that we talked to them about, was being able to manage our in-stock inventories, as well as also being able to do, you know, those things for those simple jobs. You know, a lot of the stuff now, we want to break it down to the checklist so the guys don't have to think about when they go out on a job. So they know they have a water service to go and look at. Oh, I'm going to make sure that on my truck before I leave the shop, I have 2 couplings, I have some pipe, I have this tool, that tool, and everything is on my truck before I leave the shop.
Yeah.
You know, this will help increase efficiencies throughout our crews.
That would be a boon. You know, at one point, we had talked about outfitting a truck with the necessary stuff to respond to a hydrant, a leak, a gate box, whatever. I can see where this would really help. This is nice. Is there any way to interface this with Munis at all?
Yep, so we did talk to them about bridging to other softwares, Munis, Neptune, and there is the capability. They currently do that with some of their clients. I plan on that in the future.
Yeah.
We need to get our feet underneath ourselves, starting off a new software platform, and then we'll be able to, one thing that we really evaluated through this process is we wanted to make sure that it was something that was robust enough to be able to support us in the future. We didn't want to get something that limited us or put a ceiling on us. But one thing that I've said since we started this process, talking about this 5 years ago, was it needs to be simple for the end user to use. If not, the guys aren't going to use it.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's got to be simple.
That's it. So.
This is a huge step in the right direction, in my opinion, and I love the way you're moving your financing around and taking advantage of the SRF for your first 3 years. That's really smart.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
No,
Is there a motion to accept or reject the award?
I'd make that motion to accept the bid.
Second.
The motion passes unanimous. Mr. Phil, item number 5, please.
Item number 5 is the FY22 summary of chemicals, biddings, and quotes. So as board members know, every year we go out for our needed chemical bid. If you'd like, I can read through the different bids along with the low bidder and their price. So caustic soda, the apparent low bidder was born in Remington. The total cost was $143,957. The unit price of $0.6259. Polyaluminum chloride, the low bidder was the Holland Company. Total price was $142,400. It's a unit price of $0.178 per pound. Carbon dioxide, Lindy, was the apparent low bidder. Total amount $98,187. The unit price was $284.60 per ton. Silicofluoride, born in Remington, was the apparent low bidder. And if you remember last year, we had no bidders on that, and we've had some issues with getting supplies on silica fluoride, but they have supplied us as of now, and they did bid on it this year. The total price, $94,702.50. A unit price, $1.2627 per pound. Just a note on that, that is almost triple of what we were paying a couple of years ago. Silica fluoride is not a required chemical within the water treatment, but it is a chemical that does provide a benefit to our residents in the ability to be able to provide fluoride to their body for dental health. So that's a added benefit that we provide to our customers, but not a required chemical.
Mr. Ferland, if you don't mind, I know Borden Remington is a local company. Lindy, I know I've seen over the roads, but Holland, is that a U.S. company or is it an out-of-country company?
To be 100% sure, I'm not sure where Holland Company is based out of. They've had the polyaluminum chloride bid. They've won that for a number of years. We've been very happy with their product.
I think I'm hearing New Jersey.
Yeah, I thought they were out of Jersey.
Yeah, I know their main office. I don't know whether their parent.
Right.
Everybody has a parent company now. I don't know if their parent company is out of the state, but I know the office that we deal with is out of New Jersey. Correct.
Because I remember you said some companies we've had problems with in the past, and I believe one was from out of country. And I think that issue's been resolved.
Yeah. So the ones that provide us either a gas or something sometimes have interesting contract terms, which I reject, and then work
saying
with
they're
them.
written in another language?
I would not another language. Just they like to throw in there different types of clauses where if they're unable to get it, then we pay more and stuff like that, which I don't go for. You bid on a number, Mass State bid.
I'm glad you're watching it.
That's the number we pay.
Yeah.
So the last one on there is the sodium hypochlorite. Borden Remington was the low bidder. Total price was $80,135. Unit price is $0.7285. The overall bids this year is an increase of $99,000 above our bids last year. Majority of that is coming from the fluoride, and an increase in the fluoride. Some of the we are a bit over FY22 budgeted amount for chemicals. So the budget that we put together 3 months ago had proposed amounts in there for this. We are about $30,000 over that budgeted line item within the FY22 budget.
In your daily activity, I'm sure you're talking to cities and towns. Are they all having the same sort of numbers?
Yeah, these numbers are very good. To tell you the truth, they're a lot better than I thought we were going to get. I was very concerned with the most recent complaints of trouble with people getting chemicals for their pools, specifically sodium hypochlorite or chlorine tablets. It's a really big issue, and the prices are just being driven up. I was extremely concerned that our cost on our chemicals would be driven up by that, but luckily, you're going to think that these companies are bidding on the whole entire year, so something that's affecting us right now might not affect us.
So they're covering their end so as not to get beaten on the other end.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? If not, is there a motion to accept or reject?
I'll make a motion to accept the bids as submitted. Caustic soda to Borden Remington, polyaluminum chloride to Holland and Company, carbon dioxide to Lindy, sodium silica fluoride and sodium hydroperoxide
easy for him to say,
Yeah,
right?
really, huh? He practices that.
Yeah.
The
Right.
Borden and Remington Chemical Company in Fall River.
I'll second the motion. Motion passes. Mr. Furlong, item number 6, please.
Thank you. So within your packets, you have a proposal from Woodward and Curran for study on the South Watuppa Pond. Most recently, we've, over the past number of years, I think some of the board members are aware that it's come to our attention from the Department of Public Health, from the state, that there is a excess of blue-green algae or cyanobacteria within the South Watuppa Pond. That is concerning. We have to post a swimming advisory at the pond, any public place to be able to go into the pond. But this is something that's been going on for 50 years plus. I'm not that old, but I've been told that it's been going on for that long. What we really needed to do was kind of start with an overall study of the pond and the whole entire watershed that feeds into the pond. One issue that we've had, the city water department, that we've had from the beginning with this is, it's not the pond, the South Watuppa Pond. We own the right to flow the water and to use the water. The Watuppa Water Board does. But we are not responsible for the water quality. We don't actually own the land underneath the water, so we don't own the actual physical water itself or the quality of the water above it. That has to do with all the watershed that flows into that pond. That includes Westport, Tiverton. So for the city of Fall River ratepayers to burden the cost of going in and doing studies and trying to clean up the whole entire pond, we didn't feel that was the right thing to do. I've been trying to get the other communities on board for a number of years. Mrs. Sullivan did prior to me, and since then myself as well, but we haven't been able to get them on board. This year my plan was to apply for some grant funding either through the MVP program, or I was looking at some other water quality grant programs that are out there. I was meeting with some different organizations, and Bay Coast Bank being one of the organizations that I met with, and I was explaining to them the issues with the pond and what was going on, and what our plan was to move forward to be able to do a study on the pond to show what happens with the watershed, to try to figure out if there's point sources that maybe more phosphorus and nutrients come in from specific areas. Maybe there's certain low-lying fruit, as we say, that we can get rid of to, kind of try to help out the ecology of the pond, rather than just first going in and doing multi-million dollars of sewer improvements and drainage improvements and stuff like that. I met with Bay Coast Bank, and they graciously offered to give us $100,000 towards that project.
It's outstanding.
Yeah, without a doubt, 100%. So this study right here, and one that you'll see later on for UMass Dartmouth, is all funded through a grant that was provided to us by Bay Coast Bank. So Woodward and Curran is going to take a look, and they're going to start to look at some of the impacts of the pond. They're going to start to do some of the engineering and study behind it, and they're going to start to do some of the GIS work that's associated with trying to figure out the watershed and everything like that. So that's what this contract for $70,000 to Woodward and Curran is for. And I said it is in conjunction with something that you'll see, which I already approved administratively, but you'll see it in contract updates, which is a $30,000 contract with UMass Dartmouth to do all the sampling. So we're working with the CMAS division of UMass Dartmouth to come in to do sampling throughout the pond. Woodward and Curran will also take and incorporate all that sampling into their report, in their studies, and they'll throw in some, they're going to analyze some of the different steps that we can possibly take to be able to reduce phosphorus or nutrients loading within the pond. I think this is going to be a great first step I know Paul Schmidt, who's been very active, Rep. Paul Schmidt has been very active with this as well. And he has spoken with the town of Westport about the intermunicipal agreement that I've drafted and sent to them, and he's working to try to get them on board, and we're also going to try to work to get Tiverton on board. At this point, since this is grant, there's no cost to any of the communities, but moving forward, it's not going to be just us, and it shouldn't be the burden of just our ratepayers. You know, it needs to be everybody involved working to better the ecological system that feeds into that pond.
Mr. Phelan, if I could interrupt for a minute. You went kind of fast over the state representative's name.
Yep.
So just for the edification of the public, I want to make sure credit is given where it's deserved. So it's Paul Schmidt from Westport and part of Fall River.
Correct.
Thank you. On that whole award, I think you've done some outstanding work in contacting the banks that you have. It was unexpected by me, I know that, but kudos to you for doing the hard work you've obviously done.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to accept the study? And with that motion, I'd like to add a fact that perhaps the management study, when it's completed, that the towns of Westport and Tiverton get copies, and our health department.
Yep, so one of the things that I really want to do through the project, once we get in close to the end, and I may even have one as a kickoff meeting here in the spring, I want to try to do a public outreach to involve all the involved parties, Bay Coast Bank, the rep's office, the different communities, and whether we have it at the Watuppa Rowing Center, which is more and more advanced, or the Fall River Rod and Gun Club, which also is on the shores of the South Watuppa Pond. You know, I think those would be two great spots to be able to have a kickoff meeting in the spring here, as well as a presentation of our findings at the end of the report.
And that's not to say that the Rod and Gun Club is responsible for polluting the South Watuppa by any means.
No.
Because there are farms that are giving off, different types of things that lead to the algae problem.
Yeah, there's multiple different sources, even just talking with the consultants in the beginning stages here, leaves that fall on the roadway and get ground up and then make their way through the stormwater system into the pond just leads to a phenomenal amount of loading of phosphorus into the pond, which is the food that feeds this algae.
I think that cities and towns have got to be made aware of the fact that there are people in their cities and towns, and who knows from where, also used tires ending up in the South Watuppa. That doesn't help either, and trash. But I think we're in the right direction, and I'd like to make sure that Representative Schmidt is thanks for all his work too. Is there a motion to accept the study?
Not to accept the study, but to award the contract to
Woodward.
and Curran. But
I second that.
The motion passes unanimous.
And I would mention, I think to a great degree, I think some public outreach will be significantly helpful in the future when the study's finally put together, like Paul had mentioned, because there are a good number of people who are abutters of the pond who do not realize phosphorus and nitrogen contamination issues, phosphorus contamination in water supplies, and whether it be in ground or in ponds and streams and lakes and whatnot, is out of control, to put it lightly. So there are a good number of people who have failing septics,
Yes.
over-fertilized, and are not aware of
It's a simple thing like fertilizing before it rains. It doesn't help our problem either.
Correct.
so.
But I think we're also keeping an eye on the Dave's Beach and how it's going to progress to make sure that doesn't become a real problem. So the contract study was approved, unanimous. Mr. Furlong, next item on the agenda, please.
Excellent. Next item on the agenda is item number 8. This is recommendation to award the water maintenance building project to Bisco Building Systems. Did I skip up? Excuse me.
CN.
All right. Skipped one, yeah.
Item number 7.
Item number 7. award of the Phase 20 water main replacement contract to CN Corporation. Last week we opened bids in relation to the Phase 20 water main replacement contract. We had 7 bidders, ranging all the way from 1.744 million to 2.889 million. Engineers' estimated cost was 2.27 million. CN Corp was the low bidder at $1,744,333.64. We have worked with CN Corp. He has done a number of water main replacement projects and other construction projects within the city. We are extremely happy to be able to work with him on this contract. The funding is in place for this contract. The authorization has been approved and will be moving forward.
Mr. Phil, how many more phases are we looking at?
So our current master plan goes up to phase 35. That's because we plan our current master plans 20 years out, and we updated that plan 5 years ago.
Started with 7.
You know, this started back in the 99, 2000.
And people wonder why the water rates are what they are.
No, it is, you know, and dealing with an aging infrastructure like we have is a tough thing, you know. The water mains that we're replacing are coming out of the ground, and I know all of you have seen this before, but just for edification, I'm gonna get yelled at when I go home because my pants will be dirty. But this is one of the water mains that was taken out of the ground just a couple of years ago. So this was installed in the 1800s, late 1800s.
I was doing your time, no.
That was my era.
No.
And it was just taken out of service within the past couple of years. We are still pulling these mains out of the ground to replace them.
I've seen them.
Just imagine if you live on a street and
You've got almost no or very little pressure.
no or very little pressure, no or very little fire flow to a hydrant that's in the middle of a street that has a main like that feeding it. So, you know, we always, rates are always something that we're contending with. But with the support of this board, support of the city council and the administration, we've been able to remove probably 65 miles or so of main like that. We still have a number of mains that need to be replaced from the 1800s though. So it's an ongoing process.
How many mains throughout the city?
We have about 260 miles
That's
of
what I
mains.
thought.
So a lot of our larger mains, 16-inch and above, were cleaned and lined in the 70s. But you still have 150-year-old cast iron mains that are cleaned and lined in good condition, but
And those are the ones that freeze in the winter.
they don't have the strength that the new ductile iron steel does. As this board knows, last year the water department, we tried to celebrate 2020. Really couldn't
It didn't work
celebrate
so
much, but we were 150 years old last year.
Yeah.
In 2020 from the actual creation of the Fall River Water Department. So.
You know, when you're looking at the age of the infrastructure, and you would say roughly 260 miles of cast iron main, most of that was laid down prior to 1920.
Correct.
That gives you, I mean, you're really looking at archaeological digs when you begin to exhume this pipe. I mean, over 100 years of use. There's not many products
Yep.
that you get that larger return on your investment. It's expensive, yeah, but you can't live without it.
Yep.
I'd also like to say I'm glad to see Mario back with CN. He did an outstanding job on Phase 3 when we hit concrete and railroad tracks up on North Main Street, and he stuck in there with the city, and he was very, very good to work with.
Yep. He's an excellent contractor. He's out there with his crew every day working.
He doesn't leave the job.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think the average person realizes when these companies start digging up streets to repair the mains and and our workers too, that the ledge that's in this city is incredible. And it does a real job on just water pipes.
The gas company opened up Robeson
Yeah.
Street the other day up at just south of Valentine.
Right.
And they took a rock out that was down there next to where the utilities were nested. And that rock was as large as this table and higher. And in fact, they had two machines working it, and they brought in a hammer to finally split the thing and then dig it out. That is exactly what's buried underneath this in many places.
The
Yeah.
point is that once they start digging, they don't know what they're gonna hit.
No,
They used to use what they call a bullet, the gas company. And once you put the bullet into a man-made hole, they'd start to hydraulically set it off. It goes wherever it wants. If it hits ledge, it could come up in a manhole somewhere. So those aren't working, and that's one of the reasons why people will call me, or perhaps other people, and say, what is that snake effect all over? In this case, it was North Main Street. And the city council called me and asked me the same question. I says, that's probably because they're using that snake. We don't use that in the water department, because it's a crazy tool, but the gas company, to their credit, is repairing a lot of that snake-like look all over the road, which it's about time they did it anyways. Are there any other questions? Mr. Furlan, you were on item 7.
Yep. Motion to award the contract to CN Corp for $1,744,333.64.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Furlan, item number 8, please.
All right, excellent, and thanks for what I jumped to a minute ago. So recommendation to award to Bisco Building Systems for the water maintenance building project. As the board knows, what was in front of you at the last meeting, recommended award to the apparent low bidder. We were working through with that bidder to get to a signed contract, and once we got to that point, that contractor did not feel that he could perform the job for what he bid, so he requested to withdraw his bid.
Basic reasoning for that, cost of materials?
Yeah, so since we bid this project, the cost of materials has gone up. You know, steel has tripled, copper has gone up, their fuel's gone up. There's just a phenomenal increase in the actual cost of materials across the board. You know, a lot of this, I think, is I feel is COVID related, to do with you know, plants and factories, and everybody was shut down for a long period of time. They had their stock, they were selling off their in-stock materials. Once everybody was able to get back to work, they started production back up on everything, but their stock was almost down to nothing. So you have the whole supply and demand. Supplies are low, demand is high because everybody's building houses, everybody's doing home renovations, everybody's doing everything, so the price just goes up. You know, and the troublesome part with that is, you know, I don't see a great relief in that in the near future, the way that the economy is and the way that the building market is. The supply and demand drove the price up, but there's nothing to drive the price back down, is always the trouble that we have. You know, I know this is an increase from the initial low bid, but my fear is with this project that if we went back out to bid, we'd be 20 or 30% higher. We'd be $10 million plus.
That was my next question, too.
If we were to go out to bid again for this project. So we've been working with the second bidder to see whether he'd be able to hold his bid. So far to date, he has been able to. We're waiting for some responses on some sub-bidders, because this is DCAM Chapter 149 bidding procedure, so there are sub-bidders that are also submit bids prior to it, and then the GC takes those bids and includes them in his bid. So we're waiting for some responses from sub-bidders, and also trying to work with this GC if there are any increases, whether he can absorb them within his bid cost. So far, everything has been looking very promising. What I would like this board so that we would be able to move quickly to signing a contract if it's confirmed that everybody could hold their prices. I would request that this board approve the contract and the award and the contract amount, pending that we're able to come to final details, so that way we'd be able to get a contract in place, and all the sub-bidders would be able to lock in their supplies and everything.
Question, are we gonna have a project manager overseeing this entire building?
Yep, so there's already been an OPM assigned to this project, which is myself. This board assigned me as an OPM. William Stock Architect will be the engineer architect overseeing the project on a day-to-day basis as the project moves forward.
And if, God forbid, if you should come up sick, who takes over from?
So we have a succession plan that has been developed within the departments. The pandemic kind of forced us to think about the worst case scenarios.
Unfortunately, we have to think that way.
Yep, my successor would be Tom Ty, so.
Are there any other questions pertaining to this item?
Yeah, just for edification, I don't know if I mentioned it, but the amount of the contract award would be $8,654,698.
Just for the edification of the board, a year and a half ago, it was $4.5 million. That's how the cost has risen so sharply.
Why don't I would make a motion to award the contract to Bisco Building Systems.
Is there a second to the motion?
Yeah, I'll second.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Ferlin, item number 9, please.
So item number 9 is for Route 24 crossing, and I apologize, in your packet, the letter from myself was as draft, not finalized, but it is what I needed to say. So it would be to award through a Mass DOT contract, to Mass DOT through their contract, an amount of $250,000 for a crossing of a 24-inch main going across Route 24. So we had a very unique opportunity very recently. The sewer department, I was working with Mass DOT on crossing Route 24 with some drainage pipes. That's something that I've been working on for multiple years with Mass DOT to be able to do. Recently, we had the release of a study that was done, a draft that was done by Stantec, that was done by Stantec, that laid out redundant water lines from the treatment plant. There was 3 different routes that they identified. One headed north along our access road, got up to Meridian Street, and then had to cross the bridge on Meridian Street, which would have been very difficult with the size pipes that we need to be able to cross Route 24 there, tie into the system in Willow Street at the end of Hyacinth Street. Another option was to run a parallel line from our plant heading south to Bedford Street, and then up Bedford Street to feed it and tie into our system that way. But if there was a major catastrophe with the mains on Bedford Street or heading south from the plant, it could also take out this redundant line. So that was a concern of the integrity of being able to run it that way. Third option was to cross Route 24. They had a bit south of where we were doing our drainage crossing, but not very far in the Locust Street area. We're just about 500 feet to the north of that area. We were crossing with our drainage lines. Once we got that report and study, and once we were able to evaluate it, came to my attention that we're already crossing Route 24, which is a phenomenal feat. Shutting down Route 24 for a weekend, installing the drainage lines. So I said, I think now would be a good time to be able to install a sleeve for a water main, as well as a 24-inch water main. That gets us across Route 24, gets us out of the right-of-way of Mass DOT. And then in the future, we'll be able to budget and plan to be able to run from the plant into that point, and also from Locust Street and Eastern Avenue down into the eastern side of Route 24. So we worked with the contractor, K.R. Resendes, who is, so under Mass DOT, you have P.J. Keating has the bid for Mass DOT for the repaving of Route 24. So that's what stimulated all of this to get going now. They're repaving Route 24. K.R. Resendes is doing all the site work for P.J. Keating. We already had an agreement in place with Mass DOT, a force account for the sewer work. So we opted to move forward with the water work at that time. So this would be to be able to pay for that work in the amount of $250,000 to DOT. Through DOT's contract. It's a change order to their contract with PJ Keating to be able to do that Route 24 crossing. Through the study, the Locust Street option was not one of the most favorable options, and it was due to this Route 24 crossing and the costs that are incurred with this Route 24 crossing. If we were doing this crossing and not working with DOT with their repaving project, a crossing like that would have cost $1 million plus. Very easily. So to be able to get this type of work done at this low cost was something that really needed to be done.
I have a question related to this. Hooking in the drainage of Hyacinth and that entire area coming in, what's your estimate that you're going to add to the interceptor drain as far as flowage?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you exactly
Okay.
what, but we did do a study on the availability of the flow into the interceptor drain, and there was available capacity.
Yeah, you've got a lot of freeboard there, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it as well as I have when it rains and you see the things start to rise. The amount of water that's in there is phenomenal, but it did have the capacity to be able to handle that.
Yeah.
And essentially it was water that was all getting there eventually, but it's just the peak intensity that changes because now we're getting the water there quicker. We're getting it off the roadway that flooded and off from behind the houses that flooded, and we're getting it into the interceptor drain quicker. So it's essentially the same amount of water, it's just the peak velocities changing.
May actually help keep the drain cleaner.
If we hadn't cleaned that interceptor drain last year and parts of the year before that, I can only imagine it would have been a lot worse than what
That
this
is
company
a
is
heck of a
looking at.
project that got done and long overdue.
Yeah.
That really,
Well, it was
Really?
what, 40, 50 years worth of brush and stuff
Oh, all of
growing
that.
inside of it,
All
at
of
least.
Yep, nope, well overgrown, it was well overdue, that was paid for by the sewer department as part of the
that's
Crestbrook
great.
project. It was phenomenal. We got a lot of complaints, people thought we were building a road and everything, but it's just protection of our infrastructure.
People were seeing the headlights, especially at night.
Yeah.
That can become a bit of a problem.
Yeah, protection of our infrastructure, and that's the major infrastructure piece that protects the North Watuppa Pond.
thank you.
The only statement I'll make is that when some of this work was done, we had contractors coming in and out of the gates, and they were in a hurry. They want to get work done. I can understand that. But if there's ever a future where we need to do more work like this, I think we need to have somebody make sure the contractors know they have to close the gates coming and going. I don't say lock it, but close the gates. We've had two people, one woman, I was notified by the police, was on the bridle path, which is 3 miles long at least. She was in her car in the woods, small Toyota. She'd already hit bottom twice and couldn't figure out how to get out. So I had to lead her out. And I don't know how someone from Maine ever got into the water system through that same gate. But he said his GPS took him through there. So I said, well, leave it to somebody from Maine. But I would stress that the next time, if there's ever a next time, we have to use that interceptor drain for any kind of work, that both gates at the treatment plant and on the Meridian Willow Street side be kept closed as much as possible. With that, I yield. Are there any other questions? Hearing none. Is there a motion to Award? Do we need to award this, Paul?
I would recommend fund the,
Yeah.
to fund it,
Okay.
provide the funding for the Route 24 main crossing.
Is there a motion to do so?
Motion made.
Second.
And pass unanimous. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Furlong.
So next items is updates on ongoing projects. Doesn't require any votes from the board. This is more of a notification just to keep you up to date on contracts that have been awarded that are underneath the $50,000 requirement, and also just any other ongoing projects, updates of those projects. The first two items on there would be light-duty Chevy pickup trucks, one to be used in the reservation and one to be used. So one to replace Mike Lubowski's truck, and the other one is to replace the watchman attendant's truck. Those were budgeted in the FY21 budget. The 2020 regulatory inspections of the dam is 2021 regulatory inspections is inspections that are required by the Office of Dam Safety on our dams. Park Corporation has been doing the work on all of our dams for a number of years. We've been extremely happy with them for the work that they have been doing. So we did award a contract to them in the amount of $17,900.
Chair would make a recommendation to accept the update on ongoing projects and place on file. Is there a second?
Second.
So be it.
So just a couple more projects. Do you want me to go through all of them? Or-
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Last item would be other potential matters. One matter would be the items of the repair of buildings down by the water treatment plant. You and I have discussed it. I'd just like to bring the board up to date, if you would.
So down by the water treatment plant buildings, we have the 1875 pump station. We have the screen houses for those, as well as the 1950s electric station. The 1950s electric station was still slating to be demolished eventually in the future. And the screen house as well as the screen house that's attached to that building. The other 1873 screen house is still slated to be able to rehab that building. There's a couple of different things that occurred where we weren't able to move forward with those projects at the time. We have, we had a couple of issues down at the plant, first with our pumps, then with a leak on a main 36-inch main that left the plant. So that kind of put a hold on those projects for a little while. So we'd like to get back to those sometime in the near future.
Whoever thought of putting the plywood on those windows that were unprotected, kudos to them, because it's been a constant worry about, we have a problem with homeless people. We don't need them getting in that old electrical building. Are there any other potential matters the board would like to discuss? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
I like that motion.
Motion passes unanimous. The water board is hereby adjourned.